With the 1-year anniversary of Avengers Endgame just passing, I thought I'd take a look back on the movie. And with Endgame being released just over a year ago, people have had some time with it now and could finally start to see how they really felt about the movie without all the hype and excitement around it. Some people may still feel the same way about it when they first saw the movie, others might feel completely different by now. Whether you've stayed positive or negative all the way through, or changed somewhere in between since its release back in 2019, the ending to the Infinity Saga was something to behold and still is, whether you hate the movie or not. And I want to clarify that I'm not trying to tell anybody how to feel either, this is just merely about how I feel. And to be honest, I have seen the movie be more criticized by people in the internet lately, which is fine, but some of the criticisms just, I feel like, could be explained and cleared up. Not to say that I haven't seen positive remarks about the movie, duh. People always love to praise the MCU. It's just that I want to address the more negative comments made. And I'm not going to talk about every nitpick that's been made or even criticisms about the movie itself for now, but more about ones pointed at the directors of Endgame, the Russo brothers. Now, the Russos have made 4 MCU films by now, and I think that they've done a remarkable job. Don't get me wrong, the Russos aren't perfect and have actual criticisms to be made about their films, but to say that their films and or way of filmmaking has ruined the MCU is dumbfounded to me, and I think it's stupid. Now, before you go rant about me calling your opinion stupid in the comments, I don't really think that. It's just how I choose to express myself, so just chill out. And also, before you leave a negative comment or dislike and click off the video, I just want you to hear me out and listen to my point of view, if you would be so kind. And this video won't be me saying you're stupid the whole time either, at least not without good reason. So if I'm going to talk about the Russos' involvement in the MCU, I think it's only fair if I start at the beginning. So if you came here for Civil War, Infinity War, or Endgame, you're a video or two too early. So for now, strap in, because we're talking about...
Don't say it. Don't you say it.
I left.
Come on!
You do anything fun Saturday night?
Well, all the guys from my barbershop quartet are dead, so no, not really.
The Winter Soldier is one of, if not the best MCU film, depending on who you are, and everything from the plot to the acting in the movie, this is just the prime example of the MCU firing on all cylinders. And as I said before, that's what the previous version of this video was, me talking about why one of the best MCU movies was the best. And I realized more people would agree and not really get any value out of the video, so I realized that everything in the movie stemmed from one thing, the Russo brothers' interpretation on Captain America. The Russos did something which at the time had not been done before. Comic book movies before that had only been genre-changing films, The Dark Knight being dark and gritty, the 2000 X-Men films being more grounded and realistic, or Iron Man making a pretty unknown C-list comic book character and making them popular and bringing them to the forefront. A movie like The Winter Soldier, where the main character had been changed from his comic roots, kinda really hadn't been done before. Captain America was this straight-jawed, broad-shouldered, and honesty-spewing Boy Scout. The closest interpretation to Captain America to this movie that I can think of is his Civil War appearance in the comic books. In that, Cap is more willing to sacrifice his friends and allies if they don't line up with his moral code. It's not taken to that type of extremity, I don't know, yet, but the foundation is laid down really nicely in this film, but let's not get ahead of myself there, that's for the next video. On to the movie itself.
Hey, Sarah.
I do share. I'm nice like that.
In the first minutes of the film, we get a glimpse of how much enhanced Steve really is. We never really get a good glimpse of it in the first Avenger, except for when he bent that iron pole for 2 seconds, but he even had a hard time with that. And in the Avengers, all we really see in that is that he takes Loki on in a hand-to-hand fight, which only lasted so long until Tony just takes him down with one shot. And that was Loki's plan. Yeah, I know. Just shut up. The only thing we can see is how he took on the Chitauri, but even that is kind of hard to do, considering we see normal people like Black Widow and Hawkeye do the same in that movie, and it just makes him seem less powerful. He's supposed to be a super soldier. We are supposed to feel that he is an enhanced human being, the very tip-top and peak physical condition. I didn't really get a sense of that in the previous 2 films mentioned before, so to start off the movie right after he has his jog, it's time to go to work. And God, I could watch this scene over and over again, But before we get into the ship scene, there's one more tease of how they ramp up Cap in this movie, and it's short but impactful. He jumps out of the Quinjet without a parachute, and the Russos handle this well because they do something so small but super impactful. So let's watch the scene play out real quick.
Too shy or too scared?
Too busy.
Notice anything different? I took the scene out of one of the SHIELD agents asking where his parachute was. The subtle line of a trained SHIELD agent asking if he jumped out without a parachute makes it seem even more impactful. We know as humans that we could die, so it's crazy as it is, but the inclusion of this line makes Cap's actions even more impactful.
Was he wearing a parachute?
No. No, he wasn't.
Okay, so just now that we got that out of the way, I thought that was a nice touch. Now we can talk about the actual boat scene. Dear Lord, when Cap kicks that man off the boat, my whole body jolted in the movie theater, and I still feel sorry for that poor soul every time I rewatch the movie. In a featurette for the action, when they talk about the boat scene, the Russos described Cap's technique here as he has to take knockout shots, which is straightforward, but it describes the feel for each and every hit in this scene well. Cap is there to quickly take out every person there, whether that be by knockout or throwing them overboard. Cap, simply put, is just a behemoth in this movie. He's constantly fighting more guys than one normal person can handle. If you put Captain America from the Winter Soldier in the first Avenger, this fight on Red Skull's ship, it's way different and way shorter. And yes, you can use the excuse that he had time to train with S.H.I.E.L.D., but this movie makes me feel like Steve Rogers just is a super soldier. Fights like this are throughout the entire movie, as well with Cap taking on a Quinjet by himself compared to him riding a motorcycle and pushing a button and then blowing up a tank. He fights multiple dudes in an elevator while also having these weird magnetic braces put on his wrists. They are constantly having Cap fight people with some sort of obstacle to make it harder on Cap, and the fact that he can still generally take them out with ease but still have the audience engaged is a testament to the directors knowing how to film a Captain America action sequence.
It kind of feels personal.
And whether he has magnetic braces on his arms, have multiple trained agents against him at once, in an elevator nonetheless.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
A Quinjet shooting at him, a guy pinning him down with a minigun while the others pursue him, or having his best friend from 80 years ago, who he thought to be dead, be brainwashed with a metal arm that can catch his indestructible shield midair. Cap always beats the odds and comes out on top. This also extends to the supporting heroes as well. The introduction of Sam Wilson's Falcon is brilliant because adding a character that can do what he does would be pointless, so having someone who can fight where Cap pretty much can't, the air, is genius. It's a different type of action. It's not just another Iron Man suit with more guns. I'm sorry, Rhodey, I love you, but it's true. Every character has a purpose and function that isn't similar to Steve. Steve is the soldier on the front lines, Nat is the spy infiltrating the enemy, and Sam is the eye in the sky. It's the perfect way to have a supporting cast not feel useless, but integral to the story in their own unique way. It's superhero storytelling at its finest.
But you gotta get Iron Man to stop by my niece's birthday party. Thank you, sir. And not just a flyby. He's gotta mingle.
Bye-bye bikinis.
Yeah, I bet you look terrible in them now.
And that was just one of the reasons how they fixed the character, the action. So when I say fix the character, I don't mean that Captain America was broken in any way before or that he was portrayed poorly in previous iterations. I just mean that he was changed and for the better in my opinion. You ever notice how after Iron Man, most versions of the character of Tony Stark all became modeled after Robert Downey Jr., from his mannerisms to the way his actual face looked, and same with Nick Fury after the Avengers and Samuel L. Jackson. This movie did that for Captain America. And every version of the character looking like another is a terrible idea, but that's another topic altogether, and also it's creepy. This movie has Cap's interactions reflect how they changed the character. Steve doesn't come out of the ice in an alien invasion fully trusting everyone. He meets Sam Wilson while jogging, something that Steve does as well. Also, I can't imagine Steve would need to jog, considering he could probably just sit on the couch eating whatever he wanted and come out the same, but he doesn't. He exercises, and so does Sam. He has a genuine connection with someone. He sees himself in Sam. When Sam tells Steve about his wingman and friend Riley, you can see Steve think of Bucky. They relate on so many levels, from being a soldier in a war to losing your friend.
Till RPG knocked Riley's dumbass out of the sky. Nothing I could do. It's like I was up there just to watch. Sorry.
When Steve asks Sam if he's happy, it's like he's trying to see what he'll say because Steve can't figure out how he can be happy to save his own life.
But you happy now? Back in the world?
Also, a really cool thing to notice when watching Endgame is that after the snap, Steve sets up a support group just like Sam in this movie. Steve genuinely learns from Sam, and it's not just Sam from Steve. It makes Sam feel like Steve's equal, or at least not like his sidekick. And later in the movie, Steve is on the run from S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra, and out of everyone, he goes to someone he has only had a couple of interactions with. He trusts Sam, and you could say it's because Steve wouldn't think Hydra and Sam could be involved in any way, but that would be nitpicking, and that's dumb. Sam recruits himself to join Steve, and you can tell Steve knows that Sam is fighting for a good reason, to fight for what's right, and that's all Steve wants and cares about. Sam teaches Steve how to be a normal guy.
On your left.
Want to see my lease?
Wow, you two are practically twins.
Yeah, I wish. Specimen.
His relationship with Nat is reflected in how they portray Steve as well. Steve is the soldier and she's the spy. Right after Fury dies, they both go into a defense mode of not trusting anyone, which is saying something considering they both fought off an alien invasion together. When they go to the mall, she's teaching Steve how to be a spy. She's giving him tips on how to blend in while in the mall, from their appearance to how they act. They get to Sam's house and she learns that she could have been doing missions for Hydra and not S.H.I.E.L.D., which she compares to her past, and the same could be said for Steve.
I thought I knew whose lies I was telling, but I guess I can't tell the difference anymore. Was that your first kiss since 1945?
Not bad, huh?
Shall we play a game? It's from a movie that was
I know.
really popular.
I saw it.
The movie also gives us a relationship between Steve and Fury. I would describe them as two sides to the same coin. They both want the same thing, but they approach it very differently. At this point in time, we don't know a whole lot about Fury, just that he's the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and is pretty much willing to do whatever necessary to complete his mission. We get to understand why he doesn't trust anyone, and why he has the views on the world that he has. We get this great line:
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
before it was turned into this crap.
Oh, mother fucking!
And this one about his grandfather, which could be about him, and we don't even know. We get this great scene which sums up their whole relationship.
We compromised, sometimes in ways that made us not sleep so well. But we did it so that people could be free. This isn't freedom. This is fear.
And Fury actually gets to do something in this movie. Going back to the action, we get the greatest car chase scene in any MCU movie. You ever notice how every movie he's in, he either just talks to someone or does like 30 seconds worth of action? It's so weird, but they actually let Samuel L. Jackson do something. This movie made Nick Fury the icon he is in these movies. Even at the end, they give Fury another really good line.
But if you want to stay ahead of me, Mr. Secretary, you need to keep both eyes open.
And real quick, the way Chris Evans says this line always cracks me up, and I have no idea why. It just does. And I thought I'd share it with you.
Cup of coffee?
All these characters, and I haven't even gotten to the Winter Soldier yet. Bucky in this movie is perfect. We get the reveal that Bucky is the Winter Soldier, which if you read the comics you already knew, but to anyone else, this is crazy shit. I'm so glad that he doesn't just magically remember everything and is still conflicted by the end of the movie. We get one of... You know what? We get the best hand-to-hand fight sequence in the MCU ever. It's also so cool that Sebastian Stan can actually do this with the knife. Notice how Steve doesn't even care that he's being arrested or that he has a gun pointed to his head. And you get the flashback scene that could summarize Civil War in its entirety.
I'm with you to the end of the line, pal.
Steve goes into the final act trying to save everyone, and that includes Bucky. After all the helicarriers are linked, he doesn't leave because the mission isn't over yet. He hasn't saved everyone. He goes down in the ice, with the helicarriers to save Bucky. See what I did there?
made breakfast. You guys eat that sort of thing?
An order only comes through pain. You ready for yours?
Man, shut the hell up.
When asked what writing Captain America has taught them about the character, Christopher Marcus said in an interview, "But he is a guy that history revolves around, and in some way he does not always have the biggest change. It runs counter to screenwriting logic, because we always want to take a character, arc them, and have them changed at the end of the movie, and he resists that. He's like a statue that stands there during all 4 seasons. Everything happens, and at the end of it, he's like, nope, still here, sorry." Captain America throughout The Winter Soldier never learns anything. He was the answer the whole time. The movie culminates in his speech about freedom and doing what's right, and Cap has had that same mindset at the very start of this movie and at the very start of his first solo movie. The people around him are the ones that change.
The price of freedom is high. It always has been. And it's a price I'm willing to pay.
This movie also asks some pretty hard questions about freedom and security, and the movie does really well when it's willing to be more morally gray, but when it's revealed that Hydra is still around, it becomes black and white, which isn't as strong for me, but it still also works, because then you get time to focus on the relationship between Bucky and Steve. Also, Steve learns he died for nothing when he learns that Hydra is still around. Steve is told the life he never got is equivalent to the one he lived as a soldier. He's told this by, Arnim fucking Zola. If you don't get hyped that we get a almost comic accurate Arnim Zola, then I don't know what you're doing watching comic book movies. Just look at this man. This shit is so goofy looking, and the fact that they actually pulled it off in this movie blows my mind. The movie also has Steve visit a museum about his life. Steve is in a place where they show off history, and there's an exhibit that shows his life. Steve is history. That's good writing. An American novelist by the name of Chuck Palahniuk, sorry if I mispronounced that, sums this up best when he says, "You realize that our mistrust of the future makes it hard to give up the past. Steve feels like his life is history and in the past. He can help people now as Captain America in the present, but his life as Steve Rogers is over. He has no life. Steve Rogers is dead. There is a museum remembering him. So who is he now? What is his identity?"
Don't look at me. I do what he does, just slower. Did you write that down first? Or was it off the top of your head?
People love to look at some of the MCU movies and point out how they're ugly and have no interest in visual storytelling, and they might not say that about this movie, but they say it, and we'll get to it in the other movies. So how can you tell me that when the whole movie style is a slick espionage superhero movie in a morally gray world? You're not going to see super colorful scenes or character designs. It's not the movie to do it. Also, the movie is telling this story about the government's oversight being wrong, all while being set in Washington, D.C. It's perfect.
It's right. I just saw that. There. Yeah. Should I get a check?
Oh, man. I am so fired.
To sum it up, this movie is so close to damn near perfect, if it isn't already. The Russo brothers took a risk with their interpretation of Captain America. They gave the main character no arc in a character-defining film. They took America's Boy Scout and put him in the middle of a political sci-fi thriller. The Russos redefined Captain America. They took something that people seemed to have figured out and then turned it on its head. That's not to be taken lightly. I know most of you would agree that this is one of the best MCU movies, so you might have just agreed with everything that I said, which made this a giant waste of time. But if the opposite happened, then hey, I'm glad. And this was just the first part in my video series that I'll be doing for all 4 of the movies that the Russo brothers directed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So next up is Captain America Civil War. So if Winter Soldier redefined the character, Civil War tore him down.